right, guys, back again with Eastern Shore Talk Around Town, and this time we've got Tim. Tim, real quick, 3 rapid-fire questions. Question number 1, what does the term self-care mean to you?
Self-care means taking care of yourself, your body, your mind, your soul, just being healthy, being as healthy as you can be.
And what's one thing you do consistently for self-care?
The most consistent thing is exercise. I come here a lot. I have a physical injury that I'm overcoming, and coming to the gym is basically my physical therapy, so I'm here a lot, and that is probably the most effective way. I come to the gym a lot of times in pain. I leave feeling a lot better. Another thing I love to do is hunt whitetails with traditional archery tackle. I'm not really a deer killer per se, but I sit in the woods a lot, and it's a time when I can breathe, kind of empty my mind, be in the moment. That's a big self-care thing for me, for sure.
And what's something you've been watching lately that you've enjoyed?
Documentary films. I love anything on YouTube that's about the human struggle, survival, drug addiction, just, people in bad places that overcome adversity. I'm very fascinated with that type of film. So
Awesome. Thank you, Tim, and catch us next time on Eastern Shore Talk Around Town. Take care, guys. Hello again, guys. Welcome back to Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self-care movies. If this is your first time, welcome. We're glad to have you. We are on episode 39. I'm Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Kessel.
And Cathy and I are going to talk a little bit tonight about this time of year and how folks, for different reasons, can kind of feel some kind of way that's not necessarily the most positive way for any number of reasons. But we're going to kind of go into that and talk a little bit about seasonal depression / the holiday blues / the winter doldrums, and any number of names that we have for it. We're going to kind of go into that, and maybe some things we can do, some tools, and just kind of talk about that in our conversation. But as usual, we're going to do a little bit of chicken. So, excuse me. So what's been going on, Cathy? How was your Thanksgiving?
It's good, busy. We usually have everybody over at our house, but we had not one bit of relaxation. We packed it all in. We had Thanksgiving, and then we do something we like to call it Gourmet Friday. So we go from traditional Thanksgiving to everybody cook something that they think is kind of, I don't know, it could be fancy, it could be not fancy.
Oh, that's specialty, yeah.
Yeah, and then we just kind of do that. We do that, and then we bought a camper.
Okay.
So that was a thing.
And then you bought a truck for the camper.
Yeah, we did. We've been blowing some money this weekend, which makes me nervous. But anyway, yeah, we got a new used truck to go with our little camper.
So
and then we can't use it because it's not warm out.
Yeah. Now, did you guys trade in a vehicle, or you just have that be your okay?
We trade. I mean, we have known that this was coming. We know that we were going to wait till the end of the season to get a really discounted camper, and we knew that our truck we wanted to sell the truck. We had to get a bigger one to pull it, so we got somebody else's used truck. I'm hoping that I hope they were teasing me at work. They're like, what if you got a lemon? I'm like, I hope I didn't get somebody's lemon.
Well, that was somebody that you knew, or somebody that just got in contact with?
We just got it off the lot. So, yeah. How about you?
So yeah, it was interesting, and I discovered something about whenever I have like extra days off, because obviously I was off Thursday for Thanksgiving, but I always take the Friday after off. Just it doesn't make any sense to go back to work for a day and then have the weekend and then go back on Monday. So I always take Friday. And I've discovered that this 4-day mini vacation goes so fast.
Yes.
And it seemed to go a lot faster than even I had a 3-day weekend at Labor Day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and that seemed to go really slow, and it was only 3 days. And I think part of that, Cathy, is psychologically in our minds, Monday is kind of for me. It's not like a big downer. Like I don't hate going to work at all, but it's like it's just a different mentality to going back to work on Monday versus the weekend. So our mind kind of gets in that gear where we're like, oh, when we have, in other words, when we have a Monday off, it seems fuller because we're like, oh, it's Monday and I don't have to work. But since this wasn't a Monday being off, the 4 days seemed to go faster than three
I
days did.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I agree with you. When
It
I
just
think,
didn't make any sense to me. Yeah,
Jimmy Buffett said the song Come Monday, it's going to be all right. And I thought that only applies to the week you have a vacation, not a Monday's
yeah.
in.
And again,
I agree.
I don't, I don't dread going to work at all. I enjoy my work most of the time. So I'm not, I'm not one of those that, you know, Monday morning shows up and I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. I'm
But
not like that at all. But it's just something. Mondays are not as nice as the weekends for most
I,
any of us. They're just
but I
not.
think if you have off on a Monday, then it's like you've already cheated the system. You're coming in on Tuesday and got a shorty week. I like
It's like extra credit
it's
vacation.
extra credit. And
Yeah,
then you're
even though
like,
it's not really any more time. It just feels more.
it feels like it's like you fools, you already worked the day and I didn't.
And I know I got a big chunk of time off coming up. I work up to the 19th. And then I'm off all the way till January 2nd. So I'm off, including weekends, I'm off for 13 days in a row.
You got like the
And
teacher schedule.
yeah, it's funny. And I always, even on my phone, on my calendar, I've got like the countdown, like how many days
Oh,
it
you
is
do?
left. Yep. So I
Wait, what's
know.
the countdown? What's the date? What is it?
What for Christmas?
For now to the time you're off. How many
Oh,
days?
I've got 12. I've got 12 working days left before I'm off.
So you make a little jingle up on the 12th.
Yeah,
Working
on
days
the
left
12th
of
day of almost Thanksgiving, blah, 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 Christmas.
my self care gave to me.
Yeah, so
A cough.
yeah, yeah, it's still hanging around. So yeah, I always look forward to the time off, and probably about 8 or 9 days in, I'm like, now what am I going to do? So, and it's bittersweet when I go back on January 2nd because I got to go in because this is really a really cool time for me because the store is decorated for Christmas. Christmas music is playing over the radio in the store,
Yeah.
so it's just cool to go in the mornings, turn on the music. You've got the Christmas balls hanging from the ceiling. I do my hot cup of tea. It just feels awesome. That like that holiday feel.
Yeah.
When I go back January 2nd, I got to take down all the decorations. I got to turn my music back to the Pulse on Sirius
Because of
XM. So there's no more Christmas music. So, but as much as I love Christmas music, I'm ready to switch back that part of it. I wish the holiday vibe, like the general feeling in the air of the holidays, remained longer than it does. But we'll kind of get into maybe why that doesn't for some
yeah.
folks here in a minute. But I also have something I want to talk about, and some of you who go to Chick-fil-A a
Uh oh.
lot may understand exactly what I'm going to talk about. Is here in Easton, I guess maybe a year or two ago, they added that second drive-through lane.
Oh yeah.
It was supposed to be dedicated to
I
the
called it the fast pass lane.
the pre-order lane, and at first I thought it was great. Um, those people had their own dedicated line, so they weren't cutting in line at all.
Wait, hold on. Were you a user of fast pass lane or
No,
not? I was a fast pass lane user.
well, I think originally, but the original way they had it set up was perfect.
Right, me too. And then I got
Um,
mad and I haven't been using it since I got cut it off.
and I don't know if there was something that happened in Easton or if there was something that happened in one of the other stores around the country. But the word I got, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, so let me
Right.
just qualify that.
It could be.
There was an incident about one of the workers was walking across and the car pulled out or something, a safety issue.
Mm.
So they decided no more. Well, here's my, so now if you pull into the fast lane, you scan your thing, and now the cones direct you back into the regular drive-through lane.
You're cutting somebody else off.
So you're butting in line, and there's just so much wrong with this because and what I'll do is I'll actually count the cars when I pull up and I'm getting ready to get it. And if there's just a couple, I'll go through the drive-through because you know the likelihood of getting cut, pushed back in line is not very good. But if there's a longer line, I'll just walk inside and get it and be way
Hey,
quicker.
I got the whole answer for you. You order on the app and you do curbside pickup.
Well,
That's
that's what I would think would be the solution because now,
what I do now
well, that's good. I'm glad you say that because
because I'm
every
mad about the
time
fast pass.
every time I'll be in the regular drive-through line and I'm sitting there, and I've had times where I'll be in the regular drive-through line, and there'll be 4 or 5 people that'll go through and end up. But so now I'm pushed back 4 or 5 people in line further.
Yeah.
A so you're butting in line, and what I don't understand is I'm glad you do the fast pass because if you were to, you're doing the same thing with fast pass. You pre-ordered, you get there, but instead of scanning your phone on the thing at the
Yeah.
drive-through, you just go to your app and tell them you're there, and they bring it out to you. But you're not butting in line. You're not pushing
Right.
anybody else back in line.
Yeah. It was stressing me out. So that's why I moved to the curbside.
And the other thing is, I think people what they do is they'll say, "Oh, what do I want for dinner?" and they'll order and only be a minute away from Chick-fil-A and get there and butt in, and their order is not even close to being ready yet because they just ordered it. So now they're sitting up there by the window, sitting there, holding people up potentially even more.
I'm laughing.
It irritates the crap out of me, and I'm thinking, I don't under. I mean, look, they put a lot of money into doing that, and the theory behind why they did it is fantastic. And originally, it was working great. I loved it. And I think they're trying to justify, well, we spent all this money on this technology with the scanner and all that.
Yeah.
We need to keep that going. But what they're doing is because there are far more people that use the regular drive-through line than the Easy Pass line. It might be 10-1, regular drive-through versus.
But you still got to cut.
They're inconveniencing the majority to cater to the minority, the huge minority.
Right.
When those people could go to curbside and do the same thing they're doing now, they don't have to get out of the car. They've called ahead. Either that or maybe they're trying to fix whatever issue caused them to change it, and they'll change it back. Hopefully.
I thought I heard that too. That someone had gotten it was a safety issue for an employee because they were walking across.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's just and don't even get me started when school's in and the sports team, the visiting sports team.
Oh yeah, the big bus comes
the bus
in.
pulls in there. So now I'm like, do I go to the drive-through and get butted in front of 5 or 6 times, or do I have to go in there and get behind a line of 20 college or high school athletes?
And do you know how many times when there's a bus there, I'm missing something, and then I call, and they're like, "All right, when you come in again," and I never do it, so I probably got a long list of Cathy IOUs.
Now there doesn't seem to be that as much of an issue for breakfast in the mornings because every once in a while on Friday mornings I'll go to the gym before work and then I'll run by there and take breakfast to work and eat it at work. And there's almost nobody there, so
and I wish they did breakfast all day.
Yeah.
Even if it was like those chicken minis.
Yeah, they've got good. I get the chicken biscuit.
Oh yeah, chicken biscuit's great.
And I get a large hash. I upgrade my size of the hash the tater tots or hash browns, whatever they call them.
Yeah, oh those rounds. Those are round, little rounds.
Yeah, and I get an orange juice. But yeah, so if you guys are listening, do like Cathy does and do curbside. Stop butting in front of the line.
Yeah.
Because when they first did that, I wouldn't let people in. I'm like, because people were like expecting to butt in line. I'm like, no. I would pull like within 6 inches of the car in front of me.
Don't pull.
And then finally, one of the people came up to me and said, "We gotta let them in." And I'm like, "Why? Why are they allowed to butt in?" She's like, "That's I'm not the boss."
Jay,
so stop butting in line.
I think you got
Do
to go.
curbside. What's
Keep
that?
you got for self-care purposes. You should go curbside. Order on the app.
I mean, I kind of like, because what I do is when I leave the gym, I get on my phone and I kind of catch up on things,
In the
online or
drive.
whatever. So I'm sitting in the drive-through, I'll do that, or while I'm waiting inside for my, you know what I mean? I kind of like those few minutes to kind of just, I can watch the people and,
Now, what movie? Marty hates drive-throughs because he says, was it Joe Pesci? Which movie was it? He says, you always get screwed in the drive-through line. So don't you know, whenever he's on me like that, that's what happens. Something's missing. Yeah. We get home and I'm like,
well, then you've got those people that don't have very good drive-through etiquette, and they'll sit there on the phone and everybody else is gone, and you need to pull up because you're holding up the people behind me that need to get to the window to order because you're looking down at your phone and you're not paying attention to the people in front of you who've already moved up.
oh, we've learned Jay's triggers. Drive-through line.
Yeah, that specifically with Chick-fil-A, that whole thing gets me. Um, McDonald's, I actually every once in a while I'll do McDonald's, and there's this kind of cool other than you got to me.
They don't have as many issues.
They don't have as many issues, but the only one that comes up every once in a while is because there's two lines and it kind of merges into one to go to the window. And to me, you need to get in line where it merges in the order in which you ordered. Because if you don't, you're going to confuse the people at the window because they're going to think you're the person before you. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, let's eliminate the potential issues on the other end by paying attention and saying, oh, they ordered before me, I'll let them go. Or I ordered first, I'm going to get in. But that, look, I'm OCD and all those little things go through my mind all day, every day. That's a Jay Watson mind thing. So, but Chick-fil-A needs to fix theirs. At least
Curbside.
Kathy, at least you knew enough to say, okay, this isn't right. I'm going to start doing curbside. So
I know. I'm
that would
like,
be
it's
my
stressing me
suggestion.
out. I was like, man, I'm gonna be cutting people off. They're gonna be mad.
Yeah, then you got road rage and drive-through, and yeah.
Yes. I don't need all that.
So anyway, that's my venting for the night. So let's get
All
into a
right.
little bit what our main topic is tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about what I've always kind of known it as, and the public kind of talks about it as seasonal depression. Some people call it the winter blues or the holiday blues. And I'm going to let Kathy kind of start off because I wasn't aware of this until earlier today when I started, doing some research on this. There are some actual mental health diagnoses that are in and around the seasonal depression um, category or descriptor. And then there are people that just don't quite feel as the same way as they do in the middle of the summer, and there are reasons for that. And there's different things, and then it kind of branches into kind of different categories. And I'll let Kathy kind of start off, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I think this is a really good topic to talk about because in our minds, we want the holidays to be amazing. We want it to be like a movie, just like we talked about earlier in the podcast. You go in your store, the decorations are hanging, the music is on, you feel good. And we want that and we expect that for some reason for, I don't know, I expect it from Halloween through January 1st, right? Until I
Yeah.
know I'm going to come to a screeching halt. So there's that. Our perceived idea, maybe it's a delusion, I don't know, of what we think the holidays should be. And I think a lot of us know what makes us happy or what we're looking forward to, but darn it, there's that disappointment that comes back to because the holidays are not always happy. They're not always happy for a variety of reasons. So I think it's good that we're talking about it because there might be some people that just say, you know what, forget it. They just isolate. They're like, I'm not going to deal with it. And there was a time in their life they probably did love a holiday. Or there's somebody that's just incredibly sad because maybe there's somebody at the Thanksgiving table or Christmas morning that was there last year that isn't there this year.
Yeah.
And then there's just other people that just have the blahs, like you said. And I think there's a fine line between all three of those categories as I was brushing up on them. And but I just think the important thing that we should do tonight is just kind of separate what the three categories, at least this is me calling it three buckets,
Yeah.
what they are, and realizing where you live in that. And then, it's okay. Acknowledge that, and let's figure out what to do to feel a little better, right? And I mean, I fall into some of this myself. So I would categorize three buckets. One is that season. There's a legit diagnosis called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. It's in the depression realm. Some people maybe have a little bit of it. Some people may have a lot of it. I think I can feel that way. I know that when things aren't green outside and warm, I feel a little gloomy. And after the holidays are done, January and February are my least favorite months of the year. And I feel bad for saying that because I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for time, but they're not my favorite months. So maybe I have a little bit of that, right? So that lives in the depression family, the seasonal affective disorder. And I'll tell you one thing, I missed it somewhere down the line. I didn't realize that there is some summer seasonal depression. I've never met anybody that had that,
Mm.
because usually it's more a winter type of
Yeah.
thing, right? And then the stats follow what you would think. More people in the north have it than the Floridians.
Yeah.
More women are affected than men. Um, Sometimes there's usually something else going on. Maybe somebody has some anxiety or some other depressive disorders in it. Not everybody, but it's common. Um, so, and then, what do we attribute that to? We talked about it. You and I talked about it earlier. There's less sunlight out, and sunlight brings us two good things. It increases our serotonin, which is our mood chemical. It gives us more vitamin D. So
Yeah.
we're feeling a little better. Our moods are a little more elevated. We're probably
Yeah.
outside more. So if you deprive that of us, we're a little bit like, maybe we're a little sadder. So it makes sense.
Yeah. You're able to do some of those self-care activities more because there's more daylight outside. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. There's that icky mood from, it's dark at 4:30. Where
Yeah.
we live anyway. And there's some suggestions for that. We can come back later to the suggestions on everything. And then there's just plain old, I would call it holiday blues. And that's not a clinical diagnosis, but here are the things that are holiday blues. People are stressed out for a variety of reasons, and everybody's stress is probably different. We have unrealistic expectations, right? We think, everybody's going to get along, and we want everybody to be happy. We want to create this postcard of Thanksgiving or Christmas. We're tired. We're tired as crap. I know that I'm probably 2 hours less of sleep than I usually get during the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And it makes me a little crabby. So we're tired. We're buying things for people. So there's that financial stress. There's a lot of people that aren't around loved ones that they want to be around. And whether that's from a loss, and I'll talk about that in a minute, or it's because somebody can't get home or somebody changed
Separation. Yeah.
their tradition, or, it just happened
Military
at
families. Yeah.
my family. My brother couldn't be here for Thanksgiving because his traditions had to change because he has a child in college. But then I felt sad, but that's normal. That happens. And then less sunlight. We already talked about that. Change in routine with holidays because we're all creatures of habit. So you start rocking our routines, we get a little edgy. More people are cutting in line in front of Jay at Chick-fil-A, and that makes them a little more worked up. There's more parties maybe going on or gatherings, which brings the angel devil alcohol into the scene, right? I mean, alcohol, even though it may make us feel good for a little bit, it's also a depressant, and that can make us more tired and those kind of things. And then there's sentimental kind of memories that can come into play. Maybe there's a song that somebody's grandmom used to play or a Christmas tree ornament. So there's things that start to get us in a holiday bluesy kind of place. And we can talk about what to do about that too. And then the third category is flat out grief. And Usually we think about that as the loss or death of a loved one, but it certainly could be loss of many things. Think about stories of people losing a job this time of year. Maybe somebody, there was an accident or a fire, you name it. There's a lot of tragedy. That how many times do we say, oh my gosh, that happened and it's Christmas,
Hmm.
where somebody's lost something. But certainly family members, and then that grief is hard. And it's like a roller coaster. It's not just like, oh, I'm in denial right now, and 2 days from now I'm going to be angry, and 5 days from then I'm going to accept it. It's just not like that. There's all these emotions that you have, but they kind of bounce, and it doesn't mean people are in doom and gloom, every day that they're grieving. But there are things. You got that holiday memory, and then the grief kicks in, and boom, it's all at the same time. So there's some people that are really struggling for all three of those reasons, in my opinion. Those are the buckets. And maybe you're in two or three buckets.
Yeah. So while I'm certainly not qualified to talk specifically about the clinical side of um, seasonal conditions that people get
Mhm.
into, a couple of things that you said kind of got me thinking. And the first thing, when you were talking about when people's schedules are thrown out of whack, it's not the normal stuff, and it made me think of course, I kind of I always ask myself, because what we do is our podcast is self care movies, so self care is kind of the foundation of what we talk about and how it can help with any number of things. So, and I go back to the beginning when we started this, and one of the reasons why people maybe don't do self care as much as they should or could is um, probably the number two excuse is that I don't have enough time. And when you said people's schedule changes, people's routine changes, it like this light bulb went off in my mind, and I'm thinking, okay, even as stressful and as difficult from a just simply from a logistical standpoint of there are more things we have to do to prepare for the holidays, just logistically.
Yeah.
Somehow, folks figure out a way to do it, and I kind of take that and I say, okay, take that approach and then slide it over to the self care approach to life, because the holidays with our family and gift buying and scheduling family dinners and that they matter to us, and as they should. And even though it's stressful from a logistical standpoint, we figure out a way because it matters.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try to take that same approach to self care. Number one, and number two, kind of in the self care realm. Let me back up. So I've kind of me personally, I've kind of fit in different of those boxes at different times in my life.
Hmm. We probably all do. We probably all bop in and out of them.
Yeah, when I was little, like I'll say at school age, like up through high school, like the holidays were kind of very kind of like a love hate relationship with the holidays. Um, my family situation was not the greatest, so you know, especially when I started uh, hearing about other kids, my peers' holiday stories, and I'm like, that doesn't line up with mine. So there was that. I would always, because of my social anxiety in school, like that holiday break from school, I like that. Like, and
Oh,
look, all kids like to be off during Christmas. Everybody does when you're that age. We all did. But for me, it was deeper. I didn't realize it at the time, but just looking back, my anxiety got a break for 10 days or whatever it was. You know what I'm
hmm
saying?
yeah.
So it meant more to me internally that break than just I don't have to wake up to go to school and I don't have to do homework, that kind of thing. Although that was certainly part of it. Now that kind of changed as I got older because I kind of became an adult and kind of started steering my own life. But I'd say up into my 30s, I was kind of I was I kind of was a little sad a lot of times during holidays because there were, other than that the very brief period of time when I was married, I didn't really have a traditional family holiday to kind of, I'd really like now don't really have anywhere to go, or there's nowhere that I go during the holidays. And at that time, having not figured out who I was and still kind of carrying a lot of that pain and anger from earlier in my life, it bothered me. I didn't, people would I would get invited places like I do now, and back then I would just lie and say, "Oh no, I'm going to. Someone else has already invited me," and it was a lie. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be reminded of what I was missing by going somewhere that wasn't
Yeah.
a quote unquote family holiday. So there was kind of that sadness, like where do I fit in during the holidays? I'm kind of this lone wolf, and
Mhm.
although there were places I was welcome to go. Don't get me wrong, I
Sure.
did get invited places, but it's not. It's just different when we are the traditional American family. It's supposed to be your foundation. It's just kind of you know we assume it's supposed to be this automatic thing that you spend the holidays with your family when it's feasible for whatever reason. And I didn't really have that. Although again, I had people that would invite me, so it wasn't like I had no options. I did. It was just it would have been different, and I didn't go because I would have felt uncomfortable. So,
Sure.
um, and as I've gotten older, that's changed. Um, my circumstances haven't changed, but because I have over the years kind of pieced together who I am and figured out like my value and
Hmm.
just kind of gotten to a better place internally. Um, I don't, I don't really give it a thought one way or the other. I actually am more conscious now and am more empathetic for those who, whether it's because they're in the military and they're overseas, or um, circumstances they just can't get to where they, get to their family, or people that don't have family situations for whatever reason to go to. You know, I've always thought about, and there are places around that do kind of friendsgiving things, and there are
Yeah.
organizations that kind of thing, um, and that's really cool. I like that idea. So, and like we've been friends forever, and since we've started this group and the podcast, your family always invites me over for various things, and I always know I'm welcome. So again, it's not like I don't have options of places to go. It's just that I don't. I'm good. Like I'll watch Hallmark or do whatever, and I don't. There's no longer that kind of loneliness like there was, say, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, if there were a situation where hypothetically I was dating someone and I were to be included in that, I'm sure it would be great. And there have been those times in my life where I've been in a relationship where I was included in that person's family's holidays, and they were great times, and great memories, and I had a good time, and that's wonderful. And, that's cold for someone who's not used to that. It's a welcome change. You know what I mean? But it's different in that situation where like there is a degree of expectation for me, especially if I'm in that relationship for a period of time. There's a degree of expectation where I'm assumed to be there, whereas the Castles invite me to their house, even though Cathy and I are good friends, and I know I'm always welcome, and she sincerely and genuinely would like for me to be there. It's just it's different. Not anything bad against Cathy and her family. It's there's it's a there's still, at least for me, there's just well, I don't really, I'm here because I don't have anywhere else to go. So there's always that in the back of my mind. You know what I mean? Um, as much as I'm extremely grateful for Kathy always inviting me.
And no offense taken either, you know.
Yeah, yeah, well, sure. But like you
I always
said,
say I always say it's important to be that friend too. Like not to be, if I ask you to do something, because I truly mean it and I care. I want to
Yeah,
be that genuine person, but I also want to be the same friend that doesn't put the pressure that it's like, and if you say no, that's okay.
right,
Because that's not fun either. If somebody asks you and then you're feeling like, great, now they're mad at me, or
right.
I now I've disappointed them. Like, I think it's important to be on the other end of it and not take offense.
Yes, and you've never pressured me. You always ask and include me, which is greatly just that. Just you asking because I know you genuinely are welcoming me into your home for holidays. Um, and I'm sure you do that with a lot of people that may not have places to go, and you're just that's just how you and your family are.
Yeah.
But it's just different now. I don't
Yeah.
feel any kind of way. Look, I think we all, almost all of us, prefer sunny, warmer weather than not. And that's kind of
Yeah.
the norm for a lot of us.
Especially the
So
older we get, right?
yeah, and look, I love the beach. I just love that whole vibe. Um, but I'm also well, I like the change of seasons. I
I
lived
do
in Florida. I lived in Florida for a year, and the holidays didn't feel the same when I was down there. It's 80 degrees, and
too.
because I'm accustomed to cooler weather being associated with the holiday
Me
season,
too.
it was you know. So I like the change of seasons. I don't like it bitter cold. Um,
Like today. The
it was just
wind.
wind. It was windy today because it got cold quick. It didn't like slowly get colder. It just like
I like the change too. Different clothes.
so yeah,
Well,
the cold weather in general, like the temperature doesn't really bother me so much. Now, the getting dark at 4:30, I could go without that. I have more of an issue with that than I do the temperature for sure. It's just, and it sounds weird. Like I feel different in the summer when I go to the gym and I leave the gym and it's still sunny outside. Now I go to the gym and I leave and it's
it's
dark.
time to go to bed.
Yeah, it psychologically it makes you feel like the nights, like your time that day is over quicker. Like you know.
Wait, you know what? I had a fact about melatonin.
Oh yeah,
That
the sleep hormone. Yeah,
right, that you know how a lot of people, like, if they can't sleep, they want to take melatonin, or
yep,
that's an idea to take
yep.
melatonin, right? Um, I don't understand because I can conk out probably in the middle of Saudi Arabia, but so hold on, let me see if I can get this right. In the winter, right? We can have. I didn't realize this. In the winter, we can have too much melatonin naturally. In the summer, we can have not enough.
hmm
I didn't realize that. So I was wondering if somebody has trouble sleeping all the time and it's winter and their body already has too much melatonin, is adding more to it, because people take supplements, if that causes their rhythm to be off even
Yeah,
more. Anyway,
yeah,
that was a little side piece of information that I read about that I didn't realize
yeah.
with the
You
dark
know,
like that.
and I wanted to talk about this topic only because again, the whole how self care. Now, again, I want to be clear. It's different. Like we talked about the different categories. It's a different animal if you're grieving the loss of someone, and the holidays bring that grief to the surface. That's different from just being, the temperature and the lack of sunlight makes you feel something. There's a difference between those two. However, this is just me, the plain old Jay Watson person talking. I think just self care, just taking care of ourselves generally, and doing those self care things consistently mitigate some of that. It's not going to cure anything. It doesn't make you miss that person less, but it kind of builds up. Um, I want to call it like immunity, and so not physiological immunity, but it builds up a callus, and it's centering ourselves and kind of getting back to ourselves and doing those things just help with any condition. And I go back to I kind of look at it, although there's probably not an official switch other than when the clocks get turned back. There's that switch that kind of you know starts that feeling for some people officially. But I'll
Well,
just
you know what? How about when you start seeing the little daffodils pop up?
yeah, it's in reverse. Yep.
There's a bud on the tree. There's
Yeah.
a yeah.
But just for the sake of this conversation, I'll just call the holiday season November and December because Halloween is October 31st. So I'll just say November,
But I
December.
think it's fair to say when you read about it, the fall.
Right.
Whatever fall is to you, is it
Whatever that window is, yes.
maybe it's different for people. Maybe it
So the question
starts to go to
becomes,
school.
yeah, the
But I
question
do
becomes,
have some suggestions of things to do for all three of those when you're ready to talk about them.
yep,
And I will say that self care is a thread of them all, and we can certainly
yep.
end it with that. But whenever you
Yep,
want to,
just real quickly, that's just kind
yeah,
it's kind of a rhetorical question, but we can certainly talk about it if you want. So, whatever window you determine that the seasonal blahs or whatever the negative mindset part of
yeah,
the cooler months, whatever. So my question is, so what are we doing in the other 8 9 months of the year to prepare, knowing that that's going to happen? Kind
yeah.
of, you know what I mean? We
Good question, right?
other
I
than those who
personally,
are other than those who are maybe experiencing a new grief that they've not, but just if you know that every year this time of year you feel some kind of way, what are you doing the other 8 months to prepare for? It's like reverse hibernating. You hibernate to get ready for the spring. So what are you doing? Well, I guess it really would be hard. Are you storing your, like a squirrel? Are you storing your nuts during those 8 months to prepare for those hibernation? You know,
well, Jay,
as an analogy.
I'm gonna add a bookend to that. I hadn't thought about it like that, but I think that's a good point for people to think about. So, you get geared up and you get disappointed and you get ticked off at family member, whatever is going to happen. You should probably sit down and think about it. This
Yep.
is what typically happens. Aunt so and so is going to make me nuts. Cousin blah 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 is going to get stinking rip roaring drunk. Whatever you're anticipating, um, and what are you going to do about it,
Yep.
right? What are you going to do about it? But something I read today too. So I like that, Jay. What are you gonna do about it? I don't think I really read anything like that. That's a good one. Anticipate it. And then
Hmm.
you live it. And then another new thing I really haven't thought about is after the holiday, go and reverse and revisit it. What worked? What didn't? What do you want to do? Start planning for next year. Well, I am not doing that next year, you know? So I think that's a good bookend there. Bookends to the holidays.
Yeah. Are there specific things that you can? All right, for 8 or 9 months, you do this list of consistent self care things. But now, when that season, that the gloomy season comes, do you say, okay, this is a specific set of things for me. I need to. It's now time. Now it's time to, like in the winter, we take the heavy coat out of the closet and
Yeah.
put it on the front of the closet so we can get
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
now take yourself that wintertime self care thing or things, whatever they are, figure out what those things are that are specific to the winter blues. And it's going to be different for everybody, like we've talked about before. It's time to, if the seasons and the weather changes, okay, maybe now I need to adjust the types of things for self care that I'm doing,
A
whatever that is.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And then give yourself some rewards, right? I think a lot of us are outdoor people. Maybe you don't think you're an outdoor person, but I would argue you probably are an outdoor person. Nature affects us, rather it's you're just walking and hearing, the birds, or you're watching the water, or whatever you're doing. You may not be active outside, but I bet you we're all outside people. And if you can't have that, like I walk from my door to the car and I'm complaining. It's getting ready to say something I shouldn't. I'm complaining because it's cold, but which isn't what I would do when it was on November 18th and it was like 70 degrees outside. But what could you do to plan for inside stuff, I guess? So if I know that January, I'm like, I can't stand January. Well, what could I do in January that's kind of cool? Like, is there something that I enjoy, that self care that I could do?
Yep.
Maybe it's, hey, maybe go to the National Harbor. Maybe it's cheaper in January. I have no idea. Maybe it's cheaper and you can catch a concert at the MGM, or
Yep.
you
Go
can do
see a
some
play. Yep.
after holiday. shopping at the outlets because now there's bathing suits there. It'll be there like December 31st, a bathing suit. But what's a different tradition you could add? Which something that you could look forward to,
Yep.
and it
Maybe
doesn't
maybe save
cost.
some treats, some self care treats. Like, and I'm just throwing this out there. Like maybe start doing some family game nights during those times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because look, you're going to be inside.
Wait, can I give
Somebody.
a family game? I don't think I've said this. Have I given a family game idea? My brother and sister-in-law gave it to me. I just have to say this if somebody wants to look it up. It's a game called Outsmart It. Have I said that to you,
Mm-mm,
Jay?
no.
It was a box game, and it's like a modern day Trivial Pursuit. So you get the box, and there's a code in it, and then you don't really need the box ever again, honestly. Then you do it on your phone. So, like for us, we mirror it to the TV, and we do guys against girls, which that's quite the battle in my house, as you know. I mean, you would think they just won like an NFL football game. But anyway, you're trying to get rings, trivia ring. It's
Mhm.
trivia,
Yeah.
but it's up to date. Like one of them is current news, and it's literally current news. This game is constantly being updated. Or there's 80s trivia, or there's Marvel. It's whatever. And you have the four answers and you pick, and it's like video to it. It's a real fun game. I'm just going to say that. For family game or whatever, friend game, neighborhood game night, Outsmarted is the name of the game. I would advise anyone to go check it out. It's fun.
But yeah, it's just kind of like
Oh,
how.
you can play it online too. Like Jay, if you and I wanted to get into a game of Outsmart It, we could play it like on our phones with each other, and I could be fussing with you from across town.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at trivia because I retain so much useless information in my head. So
We should do a podcast where we play it, and you could actually share the screen.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah,
Anyway,
you
there you go.
can kind of
New tradition.
save those kind of neat fun self care things. Kind of like how Christmas in a lot of ways is it's special because it only happens one time a year. If Christmas was every month, it would not hold the special place that it
Right.
does for a lot of us. Save
You know
those
what I've
special.
done the last 3 years? Kind of like what you're saying, Jay. I have decided I'm going to make a new hobby every year before the new. Like I say, it's going to start in the new year, but I really start it probably around November.
And
Like
I tell you,
something that's
if you're
creative.
somebody that likes some, I'm just throwing a couple out there. Like if you like pottery or you like art, there are some pottery
Yeah.
classes in town. There are multiple like art studios where you can go in and just do like a wine and art painting
The
thing.
canvas, like the
Yep,
paint nights.
yep. Do,
Um,
do a girls' night, or save those kind of things for that time of year when okay, here are some indoor
yeah.
things that I'm going to kind of store those nuts, like the squirrel does, store those self care things and save them for the winter time when you're hibernating.
Well, somebody we probably both know, Casey Baynard, she put on Facebook she was selling a cricket. And I was like, what the heck? So I had to really look at what the cricket really did. But it's kind of a crafting machine, right? So then I got the cricket, and that's like a new hobby for me. Now I'm putting names on things and stenciling things and making little cards because it's just something to do, because I know
Look, sometimes those self care things are just as simple as they pass the time, they distract you
yeah,
for 20
it's a
minutes.
distraction.
Yes,
Yeah.
until you get to the next self care thing, or maybe you got to go to work, or you have other obligations, whatever. But yeah, save
Keep it.
those, save a handful of things just for November, December, January, February, and then um, and you'll learn. You'll kind of and again, those 8 or 9 months prior, you know that time is coming. Especially if you're someone who kind of goes through that same cycle every year. Um, there are things that you can kind of do to kind of build up who you are, and kind of goes to that thing we talk about all the time. Try different self care things all year round. So you might try something in May and be like, oh, this is kind of cool. Let me save this until I'm off on vacation in December. It might take up an hour of time that I'm not sitting there bored and my mind is spinning off in the negative directions for whatever reason. So
Well, but I love that. I love those suggestions, and that's a common thread. What you've brought to the table, it's common for all three buckets we talked about.
yes,
It's how do you put that low hanging fruit, right? The easy self care things that we can plan and do to feel better.
Yep.
Hands down, will make you feel better. But let's give some. Can we give some more? Talk
Yep.
a little bit more about some other
Sure.
helpful things. And I'm going to start with the heaviest one first, which is grief. And then I'm going to go into seasonal affective disorder remedies, if you want to say, and then go into the holiday blues, if that's okay.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
if we're talking about the difficult topic of grief and loss, and that's a whole, that's sessions.
Yeah.
We're not going to cover all that right this second. But if you think about it as the death of a loved one, we'll just use that. That's just going to be tough. That's just going to be sucky and tough. Um, and I did a workshop today about it actually for work, and they were talking about the stages of grief, and again how it's all over the place. It's not just linear that you experience in order. It's back and forth. But just for the holiday grief, particularly if this is like the first year that someone's not at the table, I liked how they said it, that this is kind of like a training year for you. You're learning what you got to do to get through it, and
Yeah.
it's okay if you feel you feel bad.
Yep.
And I think that my mother-in-law has lost her son in August, and I've watched her very closely at Thanksgiving, and she's sad and she's putting on a really good face, probably because she thinks she should. And then
Yeah.
I almost feel bad for her, because I was like, gosh, that's got to be pressure for her to put on the happy face because she thinks she should for other people. Because if not, then you're going to look like you're isolated and don't want to talk to people. So what a tough spot for those people that are grieving. But I would just say for people on both ends of that, remember the loved one. In our case, it's Rob. Rob's not there, but we can talk about Rob. And
Yeah.
Rob isn't going to set, if you talk about Rob, it's not going to set my mother-in-law on fire. She might even be happy to talk about Rob, that people haven't forgotten him. But
Yep.
we don't know what to do with that when we're on the outside. Like, do we bring it up? Do we not bring it up? But I would say it's always safe to bring it up. And if they don't want us to talk about it, they can certainly shut the conversation down. But I think most people probably want to talk about the loved ones that they lost. And then maybe make a new ritual, some that attaches yourself to that person. Maybe somebody recreates somebody's recipe, or somebody, there's an ornament, or like we just went to the hospice festival of trees that hospice put on, for 325 loved ones that were lost,
Yeah.
that were in hospice services this year. They said it is more than it usually is. But anyway, what is the new tradition? And with grief, it's time. Some people may need some counseling. Some people may need some new traditions. Some people may need to do less than they did the year before, because it can be an awfully painful time.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Even if it's the second or third holiday. I have friends that have lost kids, and it's not any easier than it was, 5, 8, 10 years ago for them. It's just a hard time. But that's that. And then let me say this about seasonal affective disorder. I may even have one here, a light box. I don't know what I did with a light box. I have one in my office at work, whatever I did with that light box. Anyway, I ordered it off of Amazon. So you can buy light therapy, right? And plug it in near you, and there's instructions for it, and you can Google all of it. But a good 30 to 45 minutes of certain light can help with those good mood chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's not, I'm not saying you stare it down like you burn your eyeballs out, but, maybe put it to the side,
Yeah.
so you're getting some of that certain type of light, the light boxes. And then maybe some people need some vitamin D, however you do it. I think it's, if you take a supplement, is that going to work or not? I think the jury's out on some of that, but maybe people do need more vitamin D. It might sound corny, but gratitude was another thing. I have this. I got this at Target. You can't read it backwards, but it says, "Okay, fine, I'm grateful," is what the book
Yeah.
says, and it's a really cool. I sent you a picture from it today. Like this one, I love this one because it always has one page that has a quote in it, right? Like I just turned to this one. It says, "You never know what worse luck your bad luck has saved you from."
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to look at it, right?
Yeah. Things can
And
always get
then
worse. Yeah.
it's like all these lines of what you're grateful for. So when I fill it, I make sure I fill every single line on that paper, every single line, right?
Yeah.
So gratitude journaling, because it does make you think of good things, fun time, and kind of shifts your brain. Um, and scheduling other activities to do, like we just talked about for a while. That was definitely one of the ideas. Maybe figuring out how to have less stress during that time. Maybe you can't alleviate the stress, but if you can, that'd be great. And then don't forget the basics. You still need to eat, put good
I
food
agree.
in your
Yep.
body. You still need to get good sleep, and you need to try to find a laugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have to say about that one. And then this is really good for the holiday blues. I had this good article, and here are the points that it said. Make sure you stick to some routines, and we did talk a little bit about that because we are creatures of habit and do need our routines that we're used to. Make sure you get enough sleep. Take time for yourself. These are all things that we've already talked about, really. Spend time with people that care about you. If you're hanging out with people that are toxic, you're just bringing more stress for yourself.
Exacerbating it. Yep.
Spend time with people that care about you. Try to exercise. Walking is exercise. Don't forget that. Make yourself to-do lists. Keep it simple. You do not have to be Martha Stewart. Set reasonable goals for yourself when it comes to shopping, cooking, attending parties, entertaining. Christmas cards. I dropped that task years ago because it was stressing me out. Although I loved Christmas cards. I loved a little Snoopy card. I loved writing something in it, but I just can't do it. So I dropped it and had years of guilt, but now I'm okay with it. Reasonable goals about shopping. I have put a lot of pressure in my years about Black Friday shopping, Cyber Monday shopping, and lost hours and hours of sleep. And I'm just like, okay, it'll be what it'll be. Let's make a reasonable goal for it. I don't want to be stressed out about it. A budget. Make sure you are, like, if you're buying things for people, that I use an app. There's plenty of apps out there, and I'll say like my kids, and I'll put a dollar amount to it, or my
Mm-hmm.
in-laws, or whoever you're buying for, work
Yep.
people, whatever you're doing, and put a go on it, and you can write in there what you got, how much it was, if you tracked it, so it's a whole tracking thing. I find that helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then figure out what you need to do to relax. You like to do Sirius XM Holly. That's good for you. It's good for me too. Warm bath, hot tea, whatever the relaxation thing is, because you're going to need it. And like you said, if you can find time to go to that extra party or do this extra whatever, you've got to find time for you. You've got to carve it out. There you go. That's what I got.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like you said earlier, Kathy. I think all of us, to some degree, have fallen into one or more of those categories at some points in our lives, and sometimes, like in my case, we kind of hop in and out of them. Sometimes with the grief thing, it's going to be something that's perpetual. You may have variations on it, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I think taking care of yourselves, just the self care in general, all year round. Like I said, it goes a long way towards, like we've talked about before. It's when we're going through difficult times that that's the most important time to do self care, and the seasonal negativity mindset is no different.
That's true.
And if we're taking care of ourselves consistently for those other 8 or 9 months of the year, again, it's not going to fix it completely, but it mitigates it. It eases that to some degree, and it's going to change. And look, each winter slash holiday season, even if your circumstances don't change, like mine, they're going to be varying degrees. Just like each day, our best each day is not the same. So the winters slash holidays are not always going to be there. There might be a season that's better than another one, or there might be one that's worse than another, and not because of a circumstance, but just because we just, as human beings, we just ride that up and down wave emotionally and psychologically. But just the nature of being human, it's going to come and go just generally without anything changing in our lives. You know, just like day to day, our days aren't the same. Some days are good, some days not is less so. Um,
And talk to yourself. Like there's no doubt some bad situations out there. I mean, or some frustrating situations. I whether you're a single parent, you've got young kids, and you feel like the weight of the world is on you because you have so much to do to make the holidays special for those little ones, and you feel like you're alone or you don't have any help, or maybe you're dealing with some chronic health issues and you can't do what you used to be able to do, or your loved one's not coming home. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can trigger so many
right,
things for us. But, I guess we just really at the end of the day say, acknowledge it. Okay, this is what this is. This is loneliness, or this is frustration because I'm overwhelmed. And then ask ourselves, now what? Well, what do we need to do about that? What's going to make us feel better? Right? If I can't, if my mobility is challenged and I can't go walk the Winterfest of Lights in Ocean City, I'm just literally making things
yeah,
up. Then what could I do? What could I get in? But I like lights. Could I get in a car
yeah,
and my son can't come home, but maybe I can take my neighbor. We could go do that together and go to the Cracker Barrel.
right,
Like what
yep,
can you piece together that's fills what you want to do, but it might not be the same, but it's something different that you're trying.
yeah, and know that if you're having difficulties during the winter/holiday season, most of us are or have. So, like we've talked about before, Kathy,
Yeah.
we all have struggled in some way, shape, or form. But specifically for this conversation, if you're having difficulties during the holidays for whatever reason, you are far from alone. Your circumstances might be different than someone else's, but um, we all have gone through it for whatever reason. So don't feel like you're some kind of outcast because maybe you feel blah, and maybe some of your friends don't seem to
Right.
feel that way.
Yeah.
But the
You're not by
fact is,
yourself.
most of us have or are feeling some kind of way during the seasons. It's just like,
Everybody's cussing in their car. They might not say they are, but they're cussing in their car.
yeah,
This is a good line I took from one of my resources. It says, remember, the holiday blues are short term, not a long term problem, right? Be patient, take things week by week, and sometimes day by day, and sometimes hour by hour.
yeah,
Short term, if you're feeling that way.
yeah.
And,
Like call it a season. It's not permanent. Yeah,
we should say too, if somebody's really struggling, please reach out to someone. There's the 988 text or call line, or find your anchors around that you can talk to.
yeah,
I hope Jay, and I know Jay would take my call if I needed him, and I'll
yeah,
certainly take Jay's call. Like talk it out. It's gonna pass. It's not gonna. You're not
yeah.
gonna feel that way forever. It'll pass.
See, I hope we have brought you guys some tips and some understanding about that you're not weird or odd or different because you feel some kind of way during the season. Most of us have felt that way or do feel that way now. Um,
And social media is not perfect. Everybody puts the good stuff on there.
yeah, for sure.
So
Yep.
know that if you see me on Facebook laughing, smiling, I probably done cuss 10 people out before that. I'm just joking. Not really. In my mind,
maybe
but
maybe 8 or 9. Yeah.
we're not putting the bad stuff on there. So don't get caught up in comparison. And Marty
Appearances.
always
Yeah.
says, comparison is the thief of all joy,
Yeah.
which is so true, right?
Absolutely. So before we get out of here, Kathy, let's talk real quickly about some things we've been watching. So
I
what has been going on in the Castle House with the TV/movies?
Listen, I feel like I need to revisit Wicked.
Okay.
Is that fair? Because I've thought about, my initial response to Wicked, and I'm probably changing a little. because my first response to Wicked, and you and I have discussed this, was I was like, I wasn't as wowed as I wanted to be.
Uh-huh.
And I really attributed it to a lot of different things. Like I had seen the Broadway play, I thought the movie was very long. And anyway, but the more I've thought about that movie and the more things I've listened to about the movie, I'm like, I need to give that movie some respect because I've read, you helped me with some Easter egg things where I'm like, oh, yeah. And even though I went in and I was being a little bit of a baby about, I didn't know, nobody told me it was two movies. And then I was mad about that. Now I'm not mad about it anymore. I got over that. And now I'm looking forward to part two, which is a year away.
Yeah.
But the amount of real things that they did for that movie is impressing the heck out of me,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
it's, what do you call it? Is it AI that you say? What do they say when it's generated? Like it's fake.
CGI. Yeah.
See, okay. What you just said,
Yep.
CGI.
Yep.
Like this is real deal stuff. Like they had a real train to Emerald City, or they planted a million. What were they? Daffodils or poppies or tulips, whatever they were. Some
Poppies.
color.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can really respect that. It seems like they put a lot of genuine work into that. Like they love.
All the singing was live. Like actually, like as
Yes.
they were doing their dialogue, they were actually singing. It wasn't a track in the background. It was
Yeah.
them at that time. Yes.
So I'm really setting back, thinking about that movie, having a lot of respect for that movie. And I see on social media people commenting that they saw it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing." That wasn't how I walked out of the movie, but I'm like, maybe I was a little too chirpy too early, about it. And I will probably watch the daggone movie again at some point,
Yeah.
but
I'm
it's
sure
doing well.
if given the opportunity when it comes to streaming, I'll watch it again. I genuinely liked the movie, but because I had not seen the play, I did
Right.
not have that anticipation. That
Mhm.
I didn't have that as a background going into it. Like, oh, I know what happens, and I really can't wait to see what they do on the screen.
Yeah.
Um, it was pretty much brand new to me. I genuinely liked it. Now, I kind of by accident saw it might have been a TikTok post about they were trying to explain to people how the Wizard of Oz and the Wicked how it was they're supposed to be tied together in some way, and this when this person did that, they gave away some spoilers for the second one, and I won't say a word because
Yeah.
and some of them I had kind of
Even the daggone social media does rats it
some of
out.
them I've kind of figured out anyway. Some of them were surprises. It's not going to ruin anything for me because I know that
Yeah.
I know in my mind that they're in the timeline of the Wizard of Oz. They're getting
You know what
they're
you know
moving
what
that
happened.
way anyway, so it's not going to ruin anything for me. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, everything, every review, at least publicly that I've watched or heard, they rave about Ariana Grande because this, like we talked about before, this is part one is kind of more Glinda centric. Part two is more Elphaba centric, apparently. So, yeah,
Well, and it's fun to watch things. Like I've been watching, and you know how social media is. And once you start looking at something, the algorithms just pick it up. But I've seen a lot of interviews, and I'm like, these two women have really seemed like they've really grown from being in this movie, and their friendship is really sweet, and all of them seem to just
yeah, and I didn't realize that Cynthia Erivo did the color purple. She was had a singing role in the color purple. So
oh wow, I didn't know that
she
either.
was on the Jennifer Hudson show, and they did the color purple together.
Oh
And
wow,
so yeah, she this is not new to her. She's done like um, the whole
she's
musical theater
talented.
thing. That's her wheelhouse. So
So I didn't watch anything over the holiday. We were so busy doing other things, and I was really sad that we didn't get to sit back and watch a movie. I know that my oldest, well, you know what they watched, Jay. You know what they did, and I said, "No." They watched what's the movie that everybody's like, it's a Christmas movie or not? It's like the shoot. It's oh my gosh, people are shooting and car chasing and cussing. Die Hard.
oh,
Die Hard.
that's not a Christmas movie.
I'm like, it's not a Christmas movie. They're like,
No.
it's a Christmas movie. So they watched Die Hard. I refused. They did that. They did that. on Thanksgiving. And then Brennan my oldest watched Jack Frost. Did you ever watch that as a Christmas movie?
I think I've seen part. Is that with Michael Keaton?
Yes, that is
Yeah,
such a good
and
movie.
he turns
And
into
he
a
was like,
snowman.
I don't know. I don't know if he's getting sentimental now that he's 26. He's like, I don't know that I can watch that movie anymore. It really got to him. That's such a good movie. It's a good movie, but man, that puts you in the
He
feels.
turns into the snowman. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
ooh, but me, nope. So Friday, I'm going to start the traditional somethings like Fred Claus or Clark, or we're gonna get into the real
Yeah.
Christmas. I am gonna watch Red One on Friday
There you go. I
during the
think you'll.
day.
I think you'll like it. It's.
Did you saw it already, right?
Yep. I liked it. I wasn't blown away, but I did enjoy it.
I want to hear what did you see Friday? Did you see what's the movie?
Gladiator 2.
Did you see that? How was that?
I liked it. I was a big fan of the first one. Have you seen the first one? I,
Do you
I,
need to see the first?
they do a lot of flashbacks, so
Mm-hmm.
they do kind of explain things, but I do think it would help a little bit to get
Mm-hmm.
kind of the feel. If you watch, look, I don't know. Gladiator, the original Gladiator, is one of those movies that I don't know too many people that did not like that movie. It's just one of those classically good, just really. And I'm
Who's the
not
main
one.
stars?
What's that?
Who's the main stars in that
Russell
movie?
Crowe is the Gladiator.
Okay.
um, Jaimin Hansu is in it. Oh, Joaquin Phoenix is the
Okay.
bad guy. Um,
Hmm.
this was pre the Joker. He did that way long ago. That's a fairly old movie. It's probably,
Oh, okay.
gosh, it's probably 15 years old,
Really?
maybe even older than that, if I had to guess. But yeah, it's good. And the Gladiator 2 is a sequel. It literally
Okay.
directly, um,
Thanks up.
yeah. It's just, it was good.
I
Um,
want you to tell me that really good news about the theater that you told me. Tell everybody that good news about the Easton Theater.
Oh, and I actually emailed Chris Moore and told him this because
Oh yeah.
he would be interested in something like that because he's kind of doing research as to what's going on. So the Easton Theater's been renovated since they started like right around when COVID started. So it's been 4 years, 4 or 5 years since
Mhm.
they renovated, and this was the first time that I've ever seen all six screens in that 6:30 or 7 o'clock window all sold out last
That's amazing.
Friday. Now, granted, you had Moana on two screens,
Mm.
you had Wicked on two screens, you had Red One, and you had Gladiator Two. So they were all big movies, all of
You
them.
had a blockbuster weekend.
So, and this was Friday night and Saturday in that window, they were all sold out. And
That's great.
Saturday, because you can go online and it'll tell you if they're sold out. And Friday, every time slot, all the time slots Friday were sold out. It was Black Friday. Kids were off school. Like
Yeah.
every single, there was not one ticket all day Friday to be had at the Eastern
That's
Theater.
that's so amazing for our movie theater.
And Saturday, most of them were sold out, and some of them would say select few tickets or just a couple. They would tell you. So it was
Limited.
almost the same thing. So probably those few tickets sold out too. So Friday and Saturday, six screens sold out in Easton, which is great. Now, I just got my tickets for Moana today for this Friday, and there's a million tickets available.
Yes.
So I think part of it was these are all big movies. A and B, it's a holiday weekend. Kids are off school Friday, so you can go at 12 o'clock on Friday. You
Yeah,
know what
but
I mean?
it's nice to know, and you would know the data probably better than anybody else, but in our small town, like people were here doing that. They didn't feel like they needed to go to,
Yes.
Annapolis or Salisbury
And
or
I like the
whatever.
fact that there are probably a portion of those people that was the first time they had been to the Eastern Theater
Right.
since they renovated. So now they're thinking, oh, this is nice. I'll come back again. Which is
Yeah.
it's great A for our local theater, and B, it's just great for the movie industry in general because, as we've talked to Chris more about, the streaming side of things is kind of you know taking people away from actually going to the theaters. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I like Gladiator 2 quite a bit. It's just a very basic. You've got bullies, and the underdog's trying to overcome the bully. Although the underdog in Gladiator 2 is not really an underdog, as we find out. But I don't want to give too much away. But you should go. You should watch the first one. And if any of your kids have not, I think Dylan might even said he hadn't watched the first one yet.
Hmm.
Well, I'm telling you, once you watch the first one, you're going to be. I need to watch the second one too.
Okay.
I would be completely shocked if you did not like Gladiator, and that goes for everybody in your family. It's just one of those, like the story is just classic and timeless, and you got this tyrannical, leader of Rome, and the quote unquote slave in the arena fighting,
Mm.
and there's that. We want the bad, the underdog to beat the bully, pretty much. So,
Right.
and number two is just a continuation of that with the same characters. Although they introduce a couple new characters, and Denzel Washington
Oh,
is he plays a great role. He plays one of the bad guys, um, but yeah, um, it's good. So yeah, you should watch the first one. No, I tell you what else I watched streaming, and there were two documentaries, and
hmm.
I think you would love both of these, and your boys would probably like one of them more than the other. And one of them was a brand new documentary about the John Benet Ramsey
Oh, yeah.
case. Brand new information. They've released
Really?
information that we hadn't seen before. The parents had
Have you
nothing to
changed
do
your
with it.
opinion?
Parents had nothing to do with it.
Really?
And all this, and the police knew that, but
Really?
because they didn't have any other, like they got DNA evidence that was DNA that was not from anybody in the family, from the scene, that was like unknown DNA, but they didn't tell anybody. They didn't release it to the public. They didn't give it to the DA. The police,
I wonder why.
the police were so corrupt in this case.
Really?
Yep. And the father, who's now he's older now. Um, this was like
Because the mom's deceased, right?
yes, this was 1996. That's how
Mm.
long ago it was, something like that. But anyway, yeah, there's like everything now says parents didn't have anything to do with it at all, and the police pretty much knew that the whole time, but were intentionally releasing false information through the press to try to pressure the Ramseys to coming and incriminating themselves because they knew they didn't have enough to really incriminate them, but they had, in other words, the lead detective was so he didn't want to look bad, he didn't want to look inept, so he was like throwing all this garbage out there. um, yeah, you'll have to see it. It was so good.
So do they really know who? Do they don't still don't know who did it?
They
It's still
don't
on.
know because they suspect that the DNA. They've had the DNA tested several times. When they sent it to the FBI to test it initially. That's when they discovered that it was from a source that was not anybody in the family.
Wow.
So, and it was found in places at the crime scene that it could not have gotten there accidentally. It didn't match anybody that was in the family, not anybody who was like worked for the family, like nobody. So you'll have to watch it. That's really good. And the other one, which I think your kids will probably like this one more so, is remember the tsunami, the big tsunami in the Indian Ocean? It was 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago.
That was
This
crazy.
month killed 225,000 people in like Thailand and Indonesia.
Yeah.
Well, this is brand new documentary, brand new footage we haven't seen. They kind of go
Really?
step by step and talk to like scientists, and they tell you why it happened and like the power that this earthquake had to cause this tsunami, and just
That was crazy.
but yeah, they um, I haven't even finished that one. It's a series. It's
Oh,
like
oh, it is.
it's several parts. It's so good because it's like like witnesses and people that were like there talk, and they pull people from different areas because it was like 1,000 miles long. This tsunami, it was huge.
They didn't know either, right?
They didn't. Well, what's interesting is one of the people that they have on the documentary is a seismologist who
Mm-hmm.
monitors tsunamis in the Pacific Ocean because that's where the what they call the Ring of Fire, where all the
Mm.
volcanic activity and the fault lines for earthquakes are so much in the Pacific. They don't have that system in the Indian Ocean at all, like zero.
Ah,
But yet their their equipment in Hawaii could pick up the earthquake off of Indonesia. So they
wow.
talked to this guy, and he says when we first got data, it was eight. It was an 8.0 earthquake. We haven't seen that in 30 some years. But as more data came out, the power got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was the largest, the most powerful earthquake in recorded history. They suspect that there were bigger
Fun.
ones prior to when the equipment was available to measure the power. But
Right.
and he was trying to show how these two pieces of land, how one of them shot up, and when it did that, it raised the water up, and when it did that, the waves went in two directions. And yeah, it was so it's so good because they tell you why it happened, and they show you like visually, like if you were in a satellite, they were showing you the wave move, uh,
Mm.
and they're talking to people in different locations. Some crazy stories about people being heroes and people that
Mm.
survive that just
I can imagine.
it's
Right?
I mean that's real life stuff. So
Mm.
that both of those documentaries are really good. So I think your kids would probably like the tsunami one better because they just it's very like sciencey and like news, that kind of thing. They may not be so interested in the John Benet Ramsey 6-year-old girl. Um,
Been a lot of college football on in my house too.
oh, I'm sure, yeah, especially this time of year where it's getting down to the playoff time. So, yeah, so
Well,
yeah,
we had that is it called red zone?
yeah,
Do you know what that is?
yep,
Where I don't even understand that. Like they see a little bit of everything.
yep. You
Maybe
can,
that's NFL. I don't know what it is.
yeah, it's the red zone package where you can kind of you can watch them all at the same time basically.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot going on.
the voice was so good last night. It was really good. As usual, Cathy forgot and was late. Oh, you were
Well,
buying a truck, so you were late getting home. Yeah.
yeah, that truck wasn't on my bingo card.
But yeah,
I
it's
was proud.
actually it's on again tonight. So yeah, you got a little bit of time. You can still catch it. Watch. They
Yeah.
might the
Well,
the results are tonight because they voted. We voted
oh,
last night, I
okay.
believe. I think
And
everybody
then
signed last night.
tomorrow night is the Rockefeller Christmas tree lighting.
There
I
you
always
go.
like that. Oh, we're not going to be home. We have another event. I
Yeah, but
like
you,
that.
you can catch it on Peacock or whatever. So
That's true. I always forget. I just realized I have a subscription to Peacock. I'm like,
yeah,
I
so
don't even think
anything that's on NBC that you miss, like The Voice, you can go on Peacock and watch The Voice, the old episodes of The Voice.
Do you have a subscription to Peacock?
I've got them all, Kathy. The only one that I don't have anymore is Max. I got rid of Max because there wasn't anything on there I was watching anymore.
Yeah, I think we have them all too.
But I've got all the rest of them.
We got a lot because somebody's always watching something in my
And
house.
let's see, the I think the John Benet Ramsey one is on Hulu, and the Tsunami one is on Netflix, or vice versa. One's on Hulu and one's on Netflix. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
those are both worth seeing. So
Okay.
anyway, all right, guys, that's about it for us this week. We hope you've got something from this episode. We'll catch you next time. Take care, guys.